Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing really well. I hope you've had a really nice Christmas week so far. I just wanted to update you. This is take 2 because I did one yesterday on Boxing Day, but it was just no good at all. And I didn't get a chance to do anything with it. It's been full on. I had my grandchildren here. Grandson only from later afternoon, but I had my granddaughter in the morning, and I had a few housework and clearing out jobs to do first thing. So that video has gone the way of poof in the internet. Well, no, actually, just off my phone, just deleted it. So what I wanted to talk to you about is to just say what I do this week. I did want to tell you a few more things about kind of the things I love about Christmas, but I didn't get a chance to do that, and I thought that I'd keep that. Sorry, I'm talking really quietly, so I'll hold the microphone as close as I can to me so that you could actually hear me, because everybody else is still in bed. But I thought that instead of talking about what some of my Christmas thoughts and feelings and the things I love about the season, I will keep that for another time, for another project that I have in mind. So for now, I just want to tell you what I do with this week between now and the new year. Actually this year, because of where it sits, it'll be into the first week of January. So between now and about the 5th of January is the week that I used to traditionally use as a mental crossover between one year and another. And it really makes a difference. And I didn't always understand how much of a difference, except in the last 2 to 3 years, because we've been so busy, not just with the crafts in the past 2 Christmases before this one, because that's when we started them, but also with all sorts of family crises that started happening back then. We didn't actually have much of a Christmas at all of those 2 to 3 years, because things were just so hectic, and I never took this 1 week leading into the first week of January to have that mental crossover from one year to another. And because I didn't do that, by February we were completely and utterly exhausted. At the beginning of the year, when we still had a whole year ahead of us, it was the hardest thing to see through a whole year when you haven't had that crossover from one to another. It just, all the years seem to run from one to another, and they all just feel like one very, very long, eternal year. And it's exhausting mentally. And mentally, when you're exhausted, it very soon follows physically with all sorts of little things that go wrong. And that's where we've been, health-wise as well, because we've just been worn out. So what I wanted to do is this week in my journal that I haven't written in. Usually I write in my journal once every month, just as a catch-up, mention anything funny that's happened, anything bad that's happened, the general events of life. And this year, last year actually as well, I didn't do so much. This year, even less than last year. I think I've written in my journal maybe 3 or 4 times this year, and that's another thing that I've let slip that has been really helpful, because to me, writing in my journal, not the diary, the journal was kind of like having a therapist. You can just offload your thoughts, feelings, little experiences, happy, sad, whatever. Just offload, clear your mind out and put it in a journal. And I haven't been doing that this year, and it shows mentally for me. So that's another thing I need to do. I usually in this week do a roundup of the year and a summary kind of thing of things that have happened and or things I've learned, progress. So that is what I shall be doing as well. My journal, I will also be looking at. In my journal, I write every year in January my renewed revision of all the goals that I've had, the same goals for, it's got to be almost 10 years. Some of them get achieved and I move on to putting in new ones or improved ones or different ones. I change them along to adapt to the situation, whether it be financial or dynamics of the family or whatever. Then I change them, but they are the same ones really that I've had for 10 years, and all I do is I continually assess and summarize how I've been doing on those, where I need to change things for myself, where I need to improve the way I do things. I use it as a gauge, kind of like I started using the YouTube channel as a kind of, measuring, not a measuring stick, a milestone counter for the journeys we're on. But that's what I'll be doing, just looking through the past year, looking to the next year. I'll be planning my garden, planning more of the house clear out to minimize a lot of stuff, and put the house in order. That's always been the same goal, as I try to do that every year. And then I'll also be focusing on and planning the projects that are continuing, such as the school garden, my zero waste journey, and other little projects like my book that needs to be finished. And then also continuing my self-reliance journey and seeing how far we've got on that, what still needs to be done, such as things that include my food storage, preparation for self-employment, staying out of debt and living within our means. That comes into our frugal journey and ethos. So those things will still be the same. So that's what I'll be doing this week, because for me that's a mental crossover. It helps me to start the new year with a fresh, state of mind. So hopefully this year coming will be better than the last two, because I've neglected these things, and it does make a huge difference to me personally. So my thought was, am I the only one who does this? How many people do this? How many people have their own rituals and ways of starting a new year? What kind of things do you do to set yourself up for that crossover from one to the next? Or do you at all? Some people don't. They're fine with it. That's great. I wish I could do that. It's a lot less hassle then. But, and we've also got more planning for the crafts and what we're going to be doing this year, because as I said, we need to change a lot of things we're doing because of the situation that's going on, and just preempting any possible changes, and the changes of what we actually make and how we deal with the selling and marketing of those things and preparing. We still have a few more bits of equipment to get, but we didn't make much at all out of the fairs this year. It was a strange one. So it'll just be taking money out of housekeeping again to get the equipment. And as I said, we're still just building up stocks, getting our equipment, building up our experience of how markets work, how people buy, just things like that ready. Because as soon as we can make ourselves completely ready, so it's not just making for fairs, it's also making more, so that we build up stocks, as I've said a number of times. So that is where we're at. I can hear movement and footsteps upstairs, which means my quiet time is over. So what I'll do now is I will see, actually, my son downloaded a free video editing program for me earlier in the month, because he says I really need to edit my videos. I'll take his word for it. He watches lots of videos. And I did say that I will get to watch the tutorials sometime, but I want to see if I can put in a clip that we recorded on my phone, just a random, what should I say, a spur of the moment video where I've filmed a cat in my front garden that had pulled up the catnip, the whole root ball, and it was rolling around in the root ball of the catnip, being totally spaced out. It was so funny. It was so entertaining. I went and put that root ball back in the ground, covered it up with wood chips, hopefully for it to recover, only to discover within 2 days the root ball had been taken up and moved to another part of the garden again. So the cat had discovered where I kept that root ball. I've left it out now. I have a few more plants in the back garden. Hopefully they survive the winter because they're in pots. But that was so entertaining. So I'll see if I can fit that clip in. Kind of now. And Vic has pulled up the whole of the catnip plant and thoroughly getting stuck in on the path. It's mine. He's saying it's mine. The junky cat. Come back again. That's my catnip. Oh my days, is rolling all over it. Well, goodbye to that plant. Good thing I've got a few more, isn't it? Harry, come see this cat.
Okay. Be quiet, don't make a noise.